The medical bay of Space Station Alpha 7 hummed with activity. As Nurse Kira finished checking her equipment for the third time, her blue-tinted skin glistened under the bright lights, and her large, silver eyes reflected her nervous excitement. Today was special. After months of training and studying human medicine, she was finally going to treat her first human patient. Kira came from a planet where her people lived much longer than humans and rarely got sick. Their bodies worked differently. Too, when her people got hurt, they simply glowed a soft green color until they healed themselves. But humans were much more complex, and that fascinated her. The doors to the medical base suddenly opened with a loud whoosh. Two human medics rushed in, carrying someone on a stretcher. Emergency patient coming in. One of them shouted, "Deep space accident, unconscious for 2 hours." Kira's heart started beating faster. This wasn't how she imagined her first day would go. She thought she'd start with something simple, like a checkup or maybe treating a small cut. But here was a real emergency, and she was the only medical officer on duty. The patient was a woman, probably in her 30s, with short dark hair and a pale face. She wore the blue uniform of a space commander, which meant she was probably someone important. The woman's breathing was shallow, and there were some minor cuts on her arms from whatever accident had happened. What happened to her? Kira asked, trying to keep her voice steady. She had trained for this, but real life felt very different from practice. Space pod collision during a routine mission, the medic explained quickly. She hit her head pretty hard. We managed to get her out, but she's been unconscious since then. Kira nodded and immediately began her examination. She used her scanner, a device that could see inside the human body without surgery. Everything seemed normal at first. The woman's brain activity was fine, just sleeping deeply from the shock. Her heart was beating regularly, and her lungs were working well. But then something caught Kira's attention. Her scanner was picking up something unusual in the lower part of the patient's body. There was increased blood flow, elevated temperature, and what looked like tissue swelling. The readings were completely different from anything in her medical textbooks. Kira's training kicked in. Any unknown symptoms could mean danger, not just for this patient, but for everyone on the space station. What if this was some kind of new disease? What if it could spread to other humans, or even worse, to her own people? She quickly activated the medical bay's isolation protocols. Transparent barriers came down around the patient's bed, creating a sealed environment. Air filtration systems hummed to life, making sure nothing harmful could escape into the rest of the station. Computer, run full pathogen scan, Kira commanded. She had to be absolutely sure this wasn't some kind of alien virus or bacteria that the commander might have picked up during her space mission. While the computers worked, Kira studied the readings more carefully. The inflammation seemed to be localized to a very specific area. It wasn't spreading, which was good, but it also wasn't going away. The temperature readings showed it was definitely warmer than the rest of the patient's body. The computer beeped, scan complete, no known pathogens detected. That should have made Kira feel better, but it didn't. If there were no germs causing this inflammation, then what was it? In all her studies of human anatomy, she had never seen anything like this. Her people didn't experience anything similar either. Kira decided to contact the medical database on her home planet, maybe the older, more experienced doctors. They had seen something like this before. She sent detailed scans and readings, explaining the situation. The response came back quickly, but it wasn't helpful. Unknown human condition. Proceed with extreme caution. Document all findings for future reference. Great, Kira thought. She was dealing with something completely new to medical science. The weight of responsibility felt heavy on her shoulders. What if she made the wrong decision? What if this mysterious condition was more serious than it looked? The patient began to stir slightly, making soft sounds like she might wake up soon. Kira prepared some basic medical equipment just in case. She also made sure the isolation barriers were secure. Until she knew what was causing this inflammation, she couldn't take any chances. As she waited, Kira found herself staring at the readings again. The pattern was so strange. It almost looked like the human body was responding to something. But what? The patient had been unconscious the whole time, so it couldn't be a reaction to anything happening around her. Maybe it was some kind of delayed reaction to whatever caused the accident? Or perhaps humans had some kind of internal healing process that her people didn't understand. Kira made detailed notes about everything she observed. If this really was a new medical discovery, she wanted to make sure nothing was missed. The medical bay felt very quiet except for the humming of machines. Kira realized she was holding her breath and forced herself to relax. She had trained for years for situations like this. She was a good nurse, and she would figure this out. But deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was missing something important, something that any human doctor would probably understand. Immediately, the problem was there were no human doctors available right now. It was just her, an alien nurse, trying to solve a mystery that might not even be a mystery at all. The soft beeping of medical equipment filled the quiet room. As Commander Riley slowly opened her eyes, Kira immediately noticed and rushed to her bedside, staying safely behind the transparent barrier that separated them. "Hello, Commander," Kira said gently, trying to keep her voice calm and professional. "I'm Nurse Kira. You're in the medical bay on Space Station Alpha 7. You were in an accident, but you're safe now." Riley blinked several times, trying to focus. Her head felt heavy, and everything seemed a bit blurry. "What happened?" she asked, her voice hoarse and weak. "Your space pod had a collision during your mission," Kira explained. "You hit your head and have been unconscious for several hours. How are you feeling now?" Riley tried to sit up but felt dizzy and lay back down. "I feel okay, I guess. Just tired and a bit confused." She looked around and noticed the barriers around her bed. "Why am I in isolation? Was I exposed to something dangerous?" This was the question Kira had been dreading. She didn't want to scare her patient, but she also needed to be honest about the medical situation. "We're running some tests to make sure you're completely healthy. There are some unusual readings that I need to understand better." "Unusual readings?" Riley's voice became more alert. "What kind of readings?" Kira looked at her scanner again. The mysterious inflammation was still there, just as strong as before. If anything, it seemed to have increased slightly since Riley woke up. This worried Kira even more. "There appears to be some localized inflammation in your lower body region," Kira said carefully, using the most professional medical terms she could think of. "The temperature is elevated, and there's increased blood flow to the area. I've never seen anything like this in my medical training." Riley's face suddenly turned red, and she looked very uncomfortable. "Oh, that's nothing to worry about. I'm fine. Really, I'm completely fine." But Kira wasn't convinced. In her medical training, she had learned that patients often tried to minimize their symptoms, especially when they were scared or embarrassed. Riley's reaction only confirmed that something was definitely wrong. "Commander, I understand you might feel embarrassed, but I'm a medical professional," Kira said kindly. "Whatever is happening, we need to treat it properly. This inflammation could be serious." Riley shook her head firmly. "No, you don't understand. It's really nothing. Can I just go back to my quarters now? I feel much better." Kira was shocked. How could Riley want to leave when she clearly had a medical condition that needed attention? "I'm sorry, Commander, but I can't discharge you with unexplained symptoms. This could be something completely new to medical science over the next few hours." Kira ran every test she could think of. She checked Riley's blood, scanned her entire body multiple times, and even contacted medical databases from 3 different planets. Everything came back normal except for that one mysterious area of inflammation. The more tests Kira ran, the more frustrated Riley became. "This is ridiculous," Riley said finally. "I'm telling you, there's nothing wrong with me. I don't need all these tests." But Kira was determined to solve this medical mystery. She had been trained to be thorough, and her people believed that no symptom should ever be ignored. In her culture, even the smallest health concern was investigated completely. "Commander, please try to understand," Kira said. pulling up the scan results on her screen. Look at these readings. The inflammation is very real. The temperature in this area is significantly higher than the rest of your body. There's increased nerve activity and what appears to be tissue sensitivity. Riley looked at the detailed medical scans of her own body and became even more embarrassed. Please, can we just forget about this? I promise you, it's completely normal. Normal? Kira was confused. But this doesn't appear in any human medical textbook I've studied. How can unexplained inflammation be normal? Riley buried her face in her hands. Because it's not the kind of thing they put in medical textbooks, okay? This response puzzled Kira even more. Why wouldn't medical textbooks include information about a condition? That seemed fairly common if Riley was calling it normal. Were human medical books incomplete? Did they deliberately leave out certain conditions? Kira decided to contact her medical supervisor back on her home planet. She sent a detailed report including all the scan results, test findings, and her patient's strange insistence that the condition was normal. The response came back within an hour. Fascinating case. This appears to be a previously undocumented human physiological response. Continue monitoring and gather as much data as possible. This could be a significant medical discovery. Kira felt both excited and nervous. A medical discovery. This could make her famous throughout the galaxy. But it also meant she was dealing with something completely unknown, which was both thrilling and terrifying. She began preparing detailed documentation of everything she had observed. She took careful notes about when the inflammation appeared, how it changed over time, and what seemed to trigger increases or decreases in the symptoms. Riley, meanwhile, grew more and more agitated with each passing hour. She repeatedly asked to be discharged, insisting that she felt perfectly fine and that the medical attention was completely unnecessary. Please, Nurse Kira, Riley pleaded. You have to trust me on this. What you're seeing isn't a medical condition that needs treatment. But Kira couldn't ignore her medical training. Every instinct told her that something unusual was happening, and as a healthcare professional, she had a responsibility to investigate it thoroughly. The mystery was only getting deeper, and she was determined to solve it. The medical bay doors opened with their usual whoosh sound, and Dr. Hayes walked in carrying a tablet and looking slightly rushed. Kira felt a wave of relief wash over her. Finally, another medical professional who might be able to help solve this puzzling case. Good morning, Nurse Kira, Dr. Hayes said with a friendly smile. I heard we had an emergency patient come in yesterday. How's Commander Riley doing? Dr. Hayes, I'm so glad you're here, Kira said, gesturing toward her patient. I've been dealing with the most unusual medical case. Commander Riley has this strange inflammatory condition that doesn't match anything in the medical databases. Dr. Hayes raised his eyebrows with interest. Really? What kind of symptoms are we talking about? Kira pulled up her detailed scans and readings on the main medical screen. Look at these results. There's localized inflammation, elevated temperature, increased blood flow, and heightened nerve activity in her lower body region. It appeared shortly after she regained consciousness, and it's been consistent for over 12 hours now. As Dr. Hayes looked at the medical data, his expression began to change. His professional demeanor seemed to crack slightly, and Kira noticed he was pressing his lips together as if trying not to smile. Have you seen anything like this before? Kira asked hopefully. My supervisors back home think this could be a new medical discovery. They want me to document everything for research purposes. Dr. Hayes cleared his throat and looked away from the screen. Well, it's certainly interesting, he said, his voice sounding strangely tight. Riley, who had been quietly lying on the medical bed, suddenly spoke up. Dr. Hayes, can you please explain to Nurse Kira that I don't need to be here? I've been trying to tell her that there's nothing wrong with me. The patient keeps insisting the condition is normal, Kira explained. But as you can see from the scans, there's clearly something happening that requires medical attention. I've run every test I can think of, and I can't find any cause for this inflammation. Dr. Hayes looked back and forth between Kira's concerned face and Riley's embarrassed expression. He seemed to be struggling with something internally. Dr. Hayes, Kira continued, "I've been wondering if human medical textbooks might be incomplete. Commander Riley says this condition is normal, but I can't find any reference to it in any of my study materials. Is it possible that there are aspects of human physiology that aren't well documented at this point?" Dr. Hayes couldn't hold back anymore. A small laugh escaped him, and he quickly tried to cover it with a cough. But Kira had heard it clearly. "Dr. Hayes, did you just laugh?" Kira asked, her voice filled with confusion and a growing sense of frustration. "This is a serious medical situation. Why would you find this amusing?" Dr. Hayes realized his mistake and immediately tried to compose himself. "I'm sorry, Nurse Kira. I wasn't laughing at the situation. It's just that." "Just what?" Kira's silver eyes flashed with irritation. "I've been working round the clock trying to solve this medical mystery. I've contacted experts on 3 different planets. I've run dozens of tests. And you find this funny?" Riley buried her face deeper into her pillow, wishing she could disappear completely. The whole situation was becoming more embarrassing by the minute. "Nurse Kira, please understand," Dr. Hayes said, trying to find the right words. "It's not that I don't take your work seriously. You're clearly a very dedicated medical professional. It's just that this particular situation is more complicated than it appears." "Complicated how?" Kira demanded. "Are you saying there's something about human medicine that I don't understand? Are you questioning my medical training?" Dr. Hayes held up his hands peacefully. "Not at all. Your medical skills are excellent. It's more about cultural differences between our species." Kira was now completely confused. "Cultural differences? This is biology, Dr. Hayes. Medical science doesn't change based on culture." Riley suddenly sat up in her bed. "Dr. Hayes, can I please speak with you privately, just for a few minutes?" Dr. Hayes looked relieved at this suggestion. "That might be a good idea. Nurse Kira, would you mind giving us some space? I'd like to examine the patient myself and get her perspective on her symptoms." Kira felt hurt and frustrated. Were the humans trying to exclude her from her own patient's care? "With all due respect, Dr. Hayes, I am the primary medical officer assigned to this case. I should be involved in any medical discussions. I understand your position," Dr. Hayes said gently, "but sometimes patients feel more comfortable discussing certain symptoms with someone from their own species. It's nothing personal against you." This made Kira even more suspicious. What kind of medical condition would be species-specific to discuss? In all her training, she had learned that good medical care required complete honesty and openness between doctor and patient. "Are you suggesting that Commander Riley has been hiding important medical information from me?" Kira asked. "That would be a serious breach of the doctor-patient relationship." Riley looked mortified. "I haven't been hiding anything medical. I've been trying to tell you that this isn't a medical issue at all. But the scans clearly show inflammation and increased physiological activity," Kira protested. "How can physical symptoms not be medical issues?" Dr. Hayes and Riley exchanged a look that Kira couldn't interpret. There was definitely something going on that she wasn't understanding, and it was making her feel left out and frustrated. "Fine," Kira said finally. "I'll step outside for a few minutes. But Dr. Hayes, I want a full report on whatever you discover. If this is some new aspect of human physiology that I need to know about, it should be added to medical training programs." As Kira walked toward the door, she couldn't help but feel that the humans were treating her like she was somehow incapable of handling whatever was going on. She had worked hard to become a qualified nurse, and she deserved to be treated with professional respect. The mystery was becoming more frustrating by the hour, and now it seemed like the solution was being deliberately kept from her. Kira paced back and forth in the corridor outside the medical bay, feeling more frustrated than she had ever felt in her entire career. Through the glass windows, she could see Dr. Hayes and Commander Riley having what looked like a very serious conversation. Riley was gesturing with her hands, and Dr. Hayes was nodding thoughtfully. After what felt like forever, Dr. Hayes finally came out to find her. His expression was gentle but serious, like someone preparing to deliver important news. "Nurse Kira, would you mind joining me in conference room B?" he asked politely. I think we need to have a detailed discussion about this case. Kira followed him down the hallway, her mind racing with possibilities. Maybe Dr. Hayes had discovered something she missed. Maybe there really was a serious medical condition that required immediate treatment. Or maybe, just maybe, she was about to learn something completely new about human biology. They sat down across from each other at the small metal table. Dr. Hayes took a deep breath before beginning to speak. Kira, first I want to say that your medical skills are outstanding. The thoroughness of your examination and the detail of your documentation are exactly what any good doctor would do. You followed all the right procedures. Thank you, Kira said, though she sensed there was a but coming. However, what you observed isn't actually a medical condition that requires treatment. It's a completely normal human physiological response that happens in certain situations. Kira stared at him blankly. I don't understand. The scans clearly show inflammation, elevated temperature, and increased blood flow. How can that be normal? Dr. Hayes pulled out his tablet and showed her some medical diagrams. Human bodies respond to various stimuli in ways that might seem unusual to other species. What you're observing is actually a sign that Commander Riley's body is functioning perfectly normally, but it doesn't happen all the time. Kira protested. It only appeared after she woke up, and it seems to get stronger at certain moments. That suggests it's a response to something specific. You're absolutely right, Dr. Hayes said. It is a response to something specific. But that something isn't a disease or injury. It's related to human emotions and social interactions. Kira's silver eyes widened with confusion. Emotions cause physical inflammation? That doesn't make sense. When my people experience emotions, we glow different colors, but we don't develop medical symptoms. Dr. Hayes smiled kindly. Different species have different ways of expressing and experiencing emotions. For humans, strong feelings can cause various physical responses, increased heart rate, changes in skin color, and yes, increased blood flow to certain areas of the body. Are you saying Commander Riley is sick with emotions? Kira asked, trying to understand. Not sick at all. Actually, quite the opposite. What you're observing typically indicates that a human is feeling, well, let's say positive feelings toward another person. Kira thought about this carefully. You mean like friendship or professional respect? I've observed that Commander Riley seems to appreciate the medical care she's receiving. Dr. Hayes looked uncomfortable and chose his words very carefully. It's more specific than general friendship. It's related to romantic attraction and physical attraction between humans who might be interested in forming a deeper personal relationship. This concept was completely foreign to Kira. Her people formed life bonds through a complex ritual involving synchronized glowing patterns and harmonic singing. The idea that human bodies would physically respond to attraction was fascinating, but confusing. So the inflammation isn't dangerous? She asked. Not at all. It's actually a sign of good health and normal human functioning. But then why was Commander Riley so embarrassed about it? And why were you trying not to laugh earlier? Dr. Hayes rubbed his forehead. Because humans are often embarrassed when these natural responses happen in medical situations. And I was trying not to laugh because the situation was, well, let's just say it was an unusual cultural misunderstanding. Kira started to piece things together. Wait, are you telling me that all my detailed medical scans and reports have been documenting Commander Riley's romantic feelings? I'm afraid so, Dr. Hayes said gently. Kira felt her face turn a deeper shade of blue, which happened when her people felt embarrassed. Oh no. I sent detailed reports to my medical supervisors. They think I've made a major scientific discovery. They're probably preparing research papers right now. We'll help you contact them and explain the situation, Dr. Hayes assured her. This kind of misunderstanding happens more often than you might think when different species work together. But I still don't understand one thing, Kira said. If this is a normal response, why doesn't it happen all the time? What triggers it? Dr. Hayes looked even more uncomfortable. Well, it typically happens when the person is around someone they find attractive or when they're thinking about romantic situations. Kira thought back to her observations. The symptoms did seem to get stronger whenever Lieutenant Chen came to visit Commander Riley, and they talked and laughed together quite a bit. "There you go," Dr. Hayes said. "Mystery solved." Kira sat in stunned silence for a moment, processing everything she had learned. Her first major medical case wasn't a medical case at all. It was basically her accidentally documenting someone's love life in clinical detail. "I feel so embarrassed," she said finally. "I put Commander Riley in isolation because I thought she might be contagious." "Don't feel bad. You did everything right from a medical standpoint. You just didn't have the cultural context to interpret what you were seeing." Kira looked up at Dr. Hayes. "Can you help me understand more about human emotions and physical responses? I don't want to make this kind of mistake again." "Of course," Dr. Hayes smiled. "I think some cross-cultural medical training would benefit everyone on the station." The next morning, Kira approached Commander Riley's room feeling nervous but determined. She had spent most of the night reading about human emotions and social behaviors, trying to understand everything she had missed during her examination. Riley was sitting up in bed, looking much better than she had the day before. When she saw Kira approaching, she looked a bit embarrassed but managed to smile. "Commander Riley," Kira began formally, "I owe you a sincere apology. Dr. Hayes explained to me what I was actually observing during your medical examination, and I realize now that I put you through an uncomfortable and embarrassing situation." Riley waved her hand dismissively. "You don't need to apologize, Nurse Kira. You were just doing your job. I should have tried harder to explain what was happening. But honestly, I didn't know how to have that conversation with someone from a different species." Kira sat down in the chair next to the bed. "I've been reading about human emotions all night, and I'm fascinated by how different our species are. When my people feel attraction to someone, we perform a glowing light display and sing harmonious songs together. The idea that your bodies have physical responses like increased blood flow is completely new to me." "Really? Glowing and singing? That sounds beautiful," Riley said with genuine interest. "Human romance is usually much more complicated and confusing." "I can see that now," Kira said with a small laugh. "I spent days documenting your romantic feelings in clinical detail and sending reports to medical experts on 3 different planets." Riley's eyes widened. "Oh no, you didn't. I'm afraid so. But don't worry, Dr. Hayes helped me contact everyone and explain the cultural misunderstanding. Actually, the response has been quite positive. Several medical schools want to use this as a case study for training alien doctors about human physiology. So my embarrassing medical situation is going to become a teaching tool?" Riley asked, though she seemed more amused than upset. "Only if you give permission, of course. But yes, it could help prevent future misunderstandings between human patients and non-human medical staff." Riley thought about this for a moment. "You know what? If it helps other people, then I guess I'm okay with that. Besides, it's actually kind of funny now that I understand what was happening from your perspective." Just then, Lieutenant Chen appeared in the doorway, holding a small bouquet of flowers from the station's garden section. "Good morning, Riley. How are you feeling today?" Kira immediately noticed how Riley's posture straightened and how her face seemed to light up when Chen entered the room. Now that she understood human behavior better, she could see the signs of attraction that had nothing to do with medical symptoms much better. "Thanks to our excellent medical staff," Riley said, glancing at Kira with appreciation. "Lieutenant." Chen handed her the flowers. "I brought these to brighten up your room. The doctor said you might be discharged later today." Kira watched the interaction with new understanding. The way Riley smiled when she accepted the flowers. The way Chen seemed to find excuses to stay and talk longer than necessary. The way they both seemed more energetic and happy when they were together. It all made sense now. "Lieutenant Chen," Kira said, "I hope you don't mind me asking, but are you and Commander Riley planning to pursue a romantic relationship?" Both humans looked surprised by her direct question. Riley started to stammer a response, but Chen smiled and answered honestly. "We've been friends for a long time, and recently we've both realized that we might want to explore something more than friendship. Why do you ask? Professional curiosity, Kira said. I'm still learning about human social behaviors, and I find it fascinating how your emotions create physical responses that can be measured medically. Riley laughed. Well, when you put it that way, it sounds very scientific and official. Love is actually quite scientific, Kira said thoughtfully. My people have studied the biochemistry of attraction for centuries. The difference is that our research has always focused on our own species. This experience has taught me how much I still need to learn about other species. Dr. Hayes appeared in the doorway. Good morning, everyone. Commander Riley, your final tests all came back normal. So you're cleared for discharge whenever you're ready. Normal, Riley repeated with a grin. I like the sound of that. Dr. Hayes, Kira said. I've been thinking about what you said yesterday about cross-cultural medical training. I'd like to propose that we develop a comprehensive program for all alien medical staff on the station. That's an excellent idea. Dr. Hayes agreed. We could cover not just human physiology, but the medical practices and biological differences of all the species represented here. Lieutenant Chen looked curious. What kind of training are you talking about? Well, for example, Kira explained, I learned that humans can experience physical symptoms from emotional states. But did you know that my people can literally die from loneliness? If one of us is separated from our community for too long, our bodies start shutting down. A human doctor might not recognize that as a medical emergency. That's incredible. Riley said, I had no idea. Every species has unique characteristics that others might not understand, Dr. Hayes added. Better training could prevent misunderstandings and improve medical care for everyone. Over the next hour, they discussed plans for the new training program. Kira volunteered to help develop materials about her own species, and Riley and Chen offered to help with the human psychology components. As Commander Riley prepared to leave the medical bay, she turned to Kira. Thank you for taking such good care of me, even when you didn't understand what was happening. Your dedication to your patients is exactly what makes a great nurse. Thank you for being patient with me while I learn, Kira replied, and congratulations on finding someone who makes you happy. Riley and Chen left together, and Kira watched them go with a sense of satisfaction. Her first human patient case hadn't gone as expected, but she had learned more in those few days than in months of studying textbooks. Dr. Hayes joined her at the window. So, how do you feel about treating human patients now? Kira smiled, her silver eyes sparkling with excitement. I think I'm going to like it here. There's so much to learn, and every case teaches me something new about the fascinating complexity of human beings. And from that day forward, Kira became known as one of the best alien nurses in the medical corps, not just because of her technical skills, but because she truly understood that good medicine required understanding the whole person, including their emotions, their relationships, and their cultural background.